Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence.
Here are today's top headlines. GM's board shoots down management's recommendation on Opel. Recyclers don't want GM dropping out of a program to recycle mercury switches. And Samoa debates which side of the road to drive on. Up next, we'll be back with the news behind the headlines. This is Autoline Daily for Tuesday, August 25th, 2009, and now the latest in the auto industry. This soap opera over what's going on at Opel just keeps getting more and more interesting. Now General Motors says it may not sell Opel and will try to raise $4 billion on its own, possibly by mortgaging its assets in China. This, of course, is only going to further anger the German government and labor leaders who, as we reported yesterday, are already angry over the delay. Even more interesting, the Wall Street Journal reports that GM's CEO Fritz Henderson had recommended to the board that it take Magna's offer to buy part of Opel, but the board, led by Texan Ed Whitaker, rejected its own CEO's recommendation. And that, to me, more than anything else, shows how much GM is changing. It's been a long time since we've seen the GM board reject a recommendation from management, and it sends a signal this board's going to be far more active than the past ones. And speaking of GM, the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries sent a letter to President Obama asking him to stop GM from withdrawing from a program to recycle switches with mercury in them. Recyclers are paid $4 a switch to remove it from a car and have it properly processed. Automakers kick into a fund to pay that money. GM spends about $1 million a year on the program, but believes cars in junkyards are a problem for the old GM, which is now called Liquidation Motors. Earlier this summer, Toyota announced it will not host next year's Formula One Japanese Grand Prix at its Fuji Speedway track. But now, according to Autoblog, Honda will host the race for the next 3 years at its Suzuka course. The ironic thing is, even though Honda will host the race, they pulled out of F1 earlier in the year. Samoa, a small island in the Pacific Ocean, is going to switch to driving on the left side of the road. According to the Wall Street Journal, beginning in September, drivers in the country will be forced to switch from driving on the right side of the road to the left. Samoa's Prime Minister argues that Samoans will have access to cheaper used cars from its neighbors in Australia and New Zealand who drive on the left side. There is opposition to the change from a newly created group called People Against Switching Sides, or PASS, which argues that it'll just cause confusion and make driving more dangerous. You know, the last time I remember a country switching was Sweden, which changed from driving on the left to driving on the right in 1967. GM and Chrysler car dealers who lost their franchises have been jumping into the used car market. But Autoblog reports that one store near St. Louis is trying something very different. Lynch Hummer of Chesterfield, Missouri is diversifying its business by selling guns and ammunition. The owner says it's a natural fit since the typical Hummer driver enjoys outdoor sports. And only in America could you buy an H3 and a Glock at the same store. According to the website worldcarfans.com, Audi is set to reveal a performance version of the A3 at next month's Frankfurt Motor Show. Nothing is official yet, but rumors of an RS3 have been swirling around. It seems likely that the high-powered hatchback would use the same turbocharged inline-5 as the TT RS. The 2.5-liter engine should produce around 340 horsepower, but 400 ponies certainly are not out of the question. You know, small cars are only going to get more popular, especially in the US, as gas prices start climbing again. And high-performance pocket rockets offer a ton of driving fun without sucking you dry at the gas pump. Coming up next, we try to settle last week's trivia question for once and for all. Which nameplate is older, the Corvette or the Suburban? We'll be back right after this.
Changing tires out here could be dangerous, but with these tires, I don't need to worry.
Bridgestone.
Last week's trivia quiz generated a bit of controversy in our comment section on our website. We had asked Jim Hall from 2953 Analytics to come up with a good trivia question, and boy did he ever. His question is, what's the longest running nameplate in the American auto industry? And the correct answer, according to Jim, is the Chevrolet Corvette. But a number of viewers protested, saying the Chevrolet Suburban has been around a lot longer. It started production in 1936, and it's been in continuous production since then, making it 17 years older than the Corvette. So I called up Jim Hall and asked for a clarification. His response, back in 1936, GM offered a body style on a truck that was called the Suburban. In fact, it was called the Carryall Suburban. But it was a body style, not a nameplate. In fact, it was not until the 1967 model year that the Suburban had a badge on it that said Suburban. So the longest running nameplate is the Corvette, and that's the story we're telling until someone can prove us wrong. Across town and around the world, that'll do it for today's top automotive news. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.